Night came and everything went dark and spooky. Rain hammered against the windows. Inside his tall apartment, Daniel felt a growing fear in his tummy. He wasn't usually scared, but tonight was different. The walls felt cold like icy fingers. The TV, usually comforting, showed only fuzzy static, making the quiet even creepier. He tried to read, but the words didn't make sense. Something was very wrong, like a warning he couldn't understand. He stood up and walked around, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't control, trying to shake the feeling of unease that had settled deep within him. The city lights were hidden by the rain, making him feel alone and unsafe. The downpour seemed relentless, each drop echoing his growing anxiety. Every noise the old building made scared him. The creaks and groans of the structure felt like whispers of ghosts, adding to his paranoia. He looked out the window into the dark, hoping to find some solace in the familiar view. For a second, he thought he saw someone standing across the street, a dark shape near a streetlight. His heart raced as he squinted through the rain. He blinked, and it was gone. The street was empty, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Only the rain and a creepy feeling that he was being watched remained. He couldn't shake the sense that something, or someone, was out there, hidden in the shadows. He went back inside, his heart thumping, telling himself it was just his imagination. He turned on the radio for some noise, but it was just static. He tried another station, his hands shaky. More static. Then a deep, rough voice broke through. "Don't you want to know, Daniel?" It whispered, seeming to come from everywhere. He looked around, but the room was empty. "Don't you want to know the truth?" The room got colder, freezing, as a shadowy figure appeared. The air felt thick, almost tangible, as if the darkness itself was pressing down on everything. Daniel could see his breath, each exhale a puff of white mist in the icy air. Tall and dark, it felt powerful and unnatural. The figure seemed to absorb the light around it, creating an aura of impenetrable darkness. It was as if the shadows themselves had come to life, taking on a form that was both human and something far more sinister. Daniel froze, fear making it hard to breathe. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing in his ears like a drum. He wanted to run, to scream, but his body refused to obey. He was trapped, a prisoner of his own terror. The figure turned, and two glowing red eyes stared at him like they could see everything about him. Those eyes were like burning coals, piercing through the darkness and into Daniel's very soul. He felt exposed, vulnerable, as if every secret he had ever kept was laid bare before this malevolent presence. "You've been looking for answers," the figure rasped, its voice like dry leaves. The sound was grating, unnatural, sending shivers down Daniel's spine. It was a voice that seemed to come from the depths of the earth, ancient and full of malice. "I have them, Daniel. I have all the answers." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and threat. Daniel's mind raced, trying to comprehend the implications of what he was hearing. Who was this figure? How did it know his name? And what answers did it hold? The figure stepped closer, and Daniel smelled a bad, sulphurous smell like rotten eggs. The stench was overwhelming, making him gag. It was the smell of decay, of something ancient and foul. The closer the figure came, the stronger the smell grew, until it was all Daniel could do to keep from retching. He felt the figure's stare, heavy and suffocating. It was as if the very air around him was being sucked away, leaving him gasping for breath. The weight of the stare was almost physical, pressing down on him, crushing him. Daniel knew he was in the presence of something far beyond his understanding, something ancient and powerful. Panic exploded inside him. His heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing in his ears. The room seemed to close in on him, the shadows growing darker and more menacing. He stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet, his eyes glued to the scary figure that seemed to materialize from the darkness. His breath came in short, ragged gasps as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. As he fell, he hit the TV remote. The TV turned on with a sudden burst of light, illuminating the room in an eerie glow. He squinted at the screen, trying to focus through his fear. There on the screen was the source of the voice, the reason for his fear. The static cleared, revealing a face that sent chills down his spine. His own face stared back at him, twisted into an evil grin that he didn't recognize. It was like looking into a dark, distorted mirror. "You didn't want to face it, Daniel," the figure said, its voice now coming from the TV, distorted and demonic. The words echoed in his mind, each syllable dripping with malice. "You didn't want to accept that the darkness was inside you all along." The figure's eyes seemed to glow with an unnatural light, piercing through the screen and into his soul. The figure on the screen laughed, a cold, empty laugh that mirrored the emptiness growing inside him. He was the monster. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, overwhelming and undeniable. He had always been the monster. The truth was staring him in the face, and there was no escaping it. The darkness he feared was not an external force, but a part of him, lurking beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed.